Hello future tech leaders, I'm Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A CloudFoundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Today we're going to discuss on how to create a requisition. This is the first step in the recruiting. This is where the recruiting process kicks off within the success factor. If you remember in the last class, what we did is we enabled the recruiting from provisioning. Right. Initially, when you get an instance from a customer, it will be a brand instance. You won't be having any access to it or you cannot see anything. What you do in the provision, you're going to log in provisioning and you enable the required things which is required for recruiting. But you can get it from the implementation. You can just have to go and tick mark on the required things and then we have to log into the instance. Then we'll be able to see the recruiting in the drop down. But once you click on recruiting, but you won't be able to see anything. It will be totally a bland instance. For that, we have to make some necessary things. If you remember, last class we started with the creation of a pick and status that is a talent pipeline. Because if we are importing our requisition XML without a talent pipeline, you don't get imported. For that reason, the first step, what we do is we just make the basic settings first. That starts with the talent pipeline. Next thing, what we're going to do is we will be add when you start with the pick list. Even if the pick list values, whatever we mentioned in the XML, if it's not present in the system, it will throw an error. It doesn't get imported in the system. We will be getting into the center. There are certain standard pick lists that needs to be there by default. That has to be there in the requisition when you're importing. Are you familiar with the pick list? Yes. You must be already aware that now what are we dealing with. The pick list center is an MNDF pick list, not the legacy pick list. That has been deprecated. Whatever you're seeing here is an MDF pick list. We need to create. There are certain basic pick lists that is necessary for requisition, such as requisition status, whether the requisition is open or closed. Those things need to be updated in parallel before we import the requisition. XML. Normally what we do is we will be giving any convention as per our understanding of how the GAIN wants it. But it's based on our identification. We will just mention it by name. Normally what we do is, if it's related to recruiting, pick list either we mention as a recruiting or as we just mentioned as our seed. That's the standard process. What we use, that we just for the naming convention. These things and all should be present. In order to understand these values, how do you get these values? This is a basic one. Requisition status can be. Only this minimum status is like requisition on hold or requisition open or a cancel, these kind of things. When you're having the requirement gathering session with the workshop with your client, right? that they will give you the different statuses, what is required for them. Most of the clients will have only 3 to 4 values for it. This comes by default. This thing will be there by default. Pre-approved is the one when you give it, send it for once. You create a requisition and send it for approval. Right. That stage we call it as pre-approved. Once the roadmap is completed, approvals are completed. That time you're going to call it as approved status. Normally it will be as an open state. The fourth one is the ghosted. When are we causing the requisition? Consider one candidate is hired in one requisition. That time we're going to close it. These are all the recruiting statuses. This needs to be there by default. Certain clients. What do you mean? Like, for example, by default, if it's a new instance. If it's a new instance, how does the system know that? Once you enable the system, automatically enables that type of creates that pick list. This pick list will not be present in the pick list center, as I said. Whenever you're getting instance from a client, right picker center will be back, totally back. This unit to get it, this unit to create on your own. What you can do is, if you have a demo instance, you can just export it and see, get the values and input it in your system. Normally what we do is, as a client, we just keep some standard pick list values and examples with us for our references. These are just how to say, like we have to understand by ourselves that these are the required values, because whenever the requisition is sending for approval, it will be pre-approved. These are the standard things which comes within the success factor. And as I said, these are normally the 4 values which we're going to use it by default. Sometimes times want a different thing. You can add it to a call. Or you can just have something for your own. I don't know. I'm just giving random examples. If the client wants a different status apart from these two, that is also you can do. You just have to add those values and keep it here in the pick list. Here, I'm just showing you one example. This is called as requisition status. If I see it in the value, I can see it as a pre-approved on hold cancel pending approval. You can name it differently, but the functionality remains the same. This is just one example I'm giving. Different status is you have to create on, depending when you're having to work to configuration to current gathering. Based on the current requirement, you may have to have a different fields, custom fields. For that custom fields, probably they want to select different values. That if they want to give you the values, you can just come and create a big place. You are familiar with the pictures creation. Yes. In that way, we just got to create a record list by use for the current. I think maybe we're going to decide what values to be created. That should be current requirement. And as I said, there are certain things as a consultant we have to be aware of, things that can status, but the requisition status open, close on hold. These are general things we should be aware of. What we did yesterday, we enabled recruiting. We created a talent pipeline. Next, we are working on the center. Once we add all the pictures record values, then we will be able to import the examples. Or is considered. I have added a status as a field here in the example. And if there is no, because I did present in this system, and if I try to import it in the provisioning, then we draw an error sees that because value is not present in the system. That you need to come back again and create this, and then you need to put it. Best practices, whatever the biggest ideas and values are given by the kind, we're going to import it first. Second thing, what we do is we have to identify what are the kind. The languages they are using for. This will be decided by the time at the initial stages, probably RSP time. How many languages needs to be enabled within an instance and how many transitions needs to be done. Since you are already working in PMG, impact for transitions and languages you must be familiar with. I'm going to tell you how to enable for recruiting. And is recruiting languages. And then we will be enabling whatever the languages we needed. There are two things. You can do it from the back provisioning and you can do it from the front end, which are the languages we need to use. First, you need to enable in the processing and then you need to come and do it. The first what we get right. Second step is we worked on RDP. Third step is we worked on the target pipeline. Fourth step is request. Fifth step, as I was saying, these are the steps we completed. Yesterday, what we did, we enabled recruiting. We worked on RDP. We worked on talent pipeline. We will be working on the request and then we will be enabling the languages. Now we're going to start to create the requisition. Before that, there is another thing we have to do it. It's better if you do it in the first place, that we don't have to face any errors or issues at the later. But there is something called a setup job. Once you click on setup job board, there you need to add these values. You have to click on industry values. And then, depending upon your client, you have to enable the respective industries. In case if your client is related to oil and gas, you can enable the oil and gas. If it's related to chemical industry, you can enable chemical industry. It's just for identification purpose. You just say the case on purpose of the job board, like which category each for like per se for each job board. This is normally used at a later point for job postings. To be honest, I don't know why exactly that RCM has set up in this way. Since probably most of the modules are not basically of success factors. It's acquired by success factors and they have incorporated within success factors. Certain discrepancies that we have to adjust with the success factor modules. But employee central use basically from success factors starting from scratch. We don't have much of product. But when you take it as onboarding, onboarding is a module which is acquired by success factors before it was called as KMS onboarding. Similarly, recruiting marketing is not basically, it's from a different company. Same as elements. There will be some things which may not seem it's sensible, but we have to do it because of the same. Then we can mark the check for these options after creating the first job requisition and after posting. There is no harm in doing it later. But I'm just saying what are the basic things we have to do that we don't have to come back again and do it at a later stage. We just set up a basic structure within the system and then we move on to a higher part. We do the initial things, cover it first, and then we go back to the next step. In that way, that's all. It's just a tick mark. That's it. It doesn't make any much difference whether it's selecting or unselecting. Just an option, as I said. This is related to industries. Next one is related to country. Industry and country. Here, whichever the countries your company says working, you can select it. If you click on all, then you get all the countries. If you want to select a custom countries, then you can select it. You'll be having an idea of what are the countries they are dealing with. America, UK, India, Russia, Japan, China. Wherever this company is involved or the clients or partners are involved, they can just select this. Or if they want to post jobs related to these countries, they can select these required countries. There is no limit or something that you can all select a number of countries, and also you can select all countries as well. What we did now. We did set up job board and we added a new industry. And then Good job. Create a now. These are the sequence we are going through. The next part is the creation of the position. As you know, there are two ways in creation of the position. One is to manage templates and another one. Since you're already aware of, you can create a number of positions. And you should be aware of that. You can only add requisitions. You cannot do it once you add it. Then you cannot do it from the list. Only option you have. Can you repeat that part? You must be already aware of that in job. You must be already aware that you can create a number of job requisitions. There is no limit of creation of job requisitions templates. But only thing is once you're added that set, you cannot delete it from the list. If I want to delete this one, it's not possible. Consider, I have created this requisition, something called as Neha homework template in the job requisition. Since I've already added it, now I want to delete it. There is no option for me to do it. You can make it active or inactive. That's it. You have to be mindful when you are adding the requisition. It's not that you cannot delete it. You have to raise and save ticket, and then it's a long process. You have to be just careful in the beginning. It's that you don't add unnecessary requisitions in your system. In this case works exactly the same as performance and related to the active and inactive thing. But quick question, can we add a new template from here? Like same as performance. No, you cannot import it. You can write it from scratch. Here the front end looks different. You cannot import the template, but you need to type it and do it. Importing is only in the provisioning end. Since this is a kind instance and as I said, it will be a blank instance. Once you click on Manage Templates, and if you come here, Job Requisitions, you don't see any template. It will be totally blank. You have to create a requisition from scratch. There are two ways of creating, which you're already aware of. One is through Manage Templates, and another one is through XML. This remains common for everything. Consider I want to create a template from scratch. What I have to do is you can take any requisition, sample requisitions, what you have it. You just copy paste it. The first part. Second part, where exactly it starts, is requisition name. What is that requisition? You need to call it as I can say that they have created a requisition only for the people who were hired from in Canada. I will just name it as Canada Job Requisition. Be mindful of this name of the job requisition. In case if you're modifying this sort of job requisitions and if you make any by mistake also, you put a dot here next to that name and save it and then import it. It will be considered as a different requisition. Since the name is different, it will just add it as a new requisition itself when you are importing from the backend. First time when you're creating that, but when you're trying to modify the job requisitions, just be mindful that you don't make any changes in the name of the job requisition. Next part, how do we do this? I just copy pasted the initial version and then name I gave based on my requirement and then supported languages. You remember the languages what we enabled just now some time back? Yes, sir. We need to. Whatever the languages we tick mark there, we have to mention it here. But I am doing it for UK. Just do it. Do we have to add all the languages that we have checked? Which are the language translations we needed? It's better to add it here. Next part is this is instructions. How we're going to instruction? If I see the instruction, what exactly it says? Maybe, maybe we can check each part with. For example, if you have a job requisition open already like requisition information, you can show me in a requisition how that shows. Can you see the same? If you don't mind, please. I'll just tell you, probably I will see to try to get a question. Anyways, I'll be just explaining what exactly it is. Instruction is just a name as it says requisition information. You can see any instruction which says. Second one is whenever you're copying, right, make sure you copy from here field definition to the next definition. And then this is the field ID. Whenever you're creating the requisition, the first what we do, the HTML tag is first will be the ID, what it represents to be unique, and there are different field IDs which is already for recruiting. This just standard which is already out, but I think you can find it in and go in. See, These are all standard field IDs which is already available. This is the standard thing which comes within the recruitment. Now we are defining the status, the recursion status field. This is the standard field ID. You can just copy this, then base it. By default, it is the biggest type. Field ID. If it's a standard, we are going to give it as a standard. You can see it in the list. If your field ID is present within the series, you can add it here. And then type. If it's a standard one, you don't have to give anything, because if it's a standard field ID, then type also will be automatically related to that one. If I go to manage templates and if I give the field ID as a status and if I make it as a text, it won't take it. It will throw an error in the system. It says the standard status is standard ID and the type has to be pick-less. It will throw an error. And then this is required as mandatory, whether it's a mandatory field or not, true or false. Whether it's a custom or not, it is a false. Now I'm giving custom as false because this is a standard one. This field I can identify in the list. You got this part? Yes? Thank you. Next part is web gagging. How do I want to call this status? I'm calling this as a requisition status. Sometimes customers will name a different name for this fix. I'll give it a different name. And then comes the language part. In English, I want to call it as requisition status. For instance, I want to look in a different way. I'll just copy this, paste it. In UK English, I want to be called this as requisition status. In different languages, I can name it in different way. This translation will be given by your client. You need to ask for this translation. They will provide it in the workbook. You can come here and copy-paste the card. It's similar as PM. If it's a request value, then at the bottom of it, we need to add it to the reason we were asking. Right. Why we need to add the request value before we are creating a requisition? The reason is if we have to mention what is the pick list ID here. For that reason, we are going to add it. This is how we start with the creation of a requisition. Second one, requisition ID. Requisition ID is the number what it generates when you create a requisition. You can see certain numbers right, which is related to particular requisition that gets automatically created. You cannot have a control on that. These are all standard fields which comes within the recruiting. Standard field ID. This has to be text type. Some field definition I have added here. I do want to create. What I wanted to create is ID and the type is text. When the standard value comes with text only, you cannot make it as a pick list because it's a standard thing which is related to success factors. We cannot modify it. This one, you can modify it. That's required as true or false. Custom will be always false because it's a standard. Even if I make it as true and try to import it, we throw an error because it's a standard field, ID. Naming convention. This one, I can give it anything. I can give it as a red card D. If I need it in a different language, I'll just copy and paste it and make it in a different language. And this transition will be given to your client. You just come and paste it here. These are similarly because this is how we do it. These are just standard fields. If I see the ID, status, country, title, external title listing, can you please go back? I mean, go up for this job and job call. It's always for job role, like will be object. See, job and job code is a standard one. But job code I think is text. Type of field is text. Job for job role. Object will be a type would be job role. For job code, it has to be text. That is different. We will come to that part position. Now we've got to know how to add the fields, right? How to add the fields within the XML template. I have a question. For example, if you search for X title, I don't know if here happens the same, but if you search, for example, for X title and that type, but in the XML and you search that field in the user interface, the name is a little. Sorry, Maria, your voice is breaking. Can you come again? I'm sorry. For example, the X title field. If you search that option in the XML is named different as I can see in the user interface why that happened. Now I want this field external data. This is a standard field. And adding this external data, external title is nothing but the job title which will be visible for the external employees. Since this is a standard ID, I'll just copy paste this as an external title type would be text. As you know that it will be a text. It is required. It is true. It's based on your requirement. If you want to be false, you can make it as false. That's done. It has to be false always because it's a standard field. Now coming to your question. Why it is coming is a different. You change it here as a different. I just make it as a position title. The name is perhaps for the CVAT is different as the language, or maybe I'm not playing myself correctly. You can continue and I can take a couple of screenshots and show you what I'm trying to say for next class. We do want to. Now at least you go to concept, right? For me, what you have to understand is the concept first. Each part we can come back to later and we can check on it. Basically, what I want you to understand is how we create from the scratch and how do we add the fields that are able to understand it. Did you get the process concept to you? I want you to understand in a process how we create a requisition from the basic. We just copy paste the basic requirement question. These things are not. Then we give the template name. Then we added the languages we are supporting. And then one by one we are going to add the fields. What is required for us is conceptual ways. You are aware of things right now. Second thing is, how do we define a feed? Feed definition is good. There are two things. One is custom feeds. Another one is standard fields. What are the fields you see here? These are all standard fields. It comes by default. It is a requisition. This we cannot modify it. We just have to take it as it is. And the second thing is naming. We have to give the field. ID would be same, but we can call it in a different name. That is the feasibility. We have it here. It's just a naming convention. We can change it however we want based on our requirement. And also we can modify based on the particular country wise also. In this conceptual wise is clear. This is how we start building. This is how we create an XL from the scratch. Let me show you an example for how do we add in custom field. Oh, can you just guide me if you know it? Yes, you can change. You can copy the file definition and you can put any like. I think if we set like a field like text or something like that, you can put any name in the ID, but you have to make sure that in the future the custom feature is set to true instead of false. For identification purpose, what we can do is normally what we do is you start the name with use underscore is underscore. We're going to give one ID for identification. For example, I need it for employed. I'm just giving an example. This is the ID what I want. I just added here, but it can be anything. Since you're creating a custom field, you can do anything you want. You can make it as a text. You can make it as a big list. I have a question. It is whatever. One type of field is like M field. I think is the name M filtered. If you go back, what is the difference between like an instant, like a normal custom field and that type of field? Do you know what I mean? There are two things. You can see it here. Young food. Yom means represents for multiple. And there are two things here. One is feed and another one is filtered. Yum is mighty and you can say multiple things when you are selecting it. For instance, I'm just giving you an example. I'm just consider this as a post. Just consider the T. Creating a custom field where I need to select the values for this. For an end user, I need to give an option to select multiple things. In that case, I had to change the ID like for multi, like and filter something. If I want to use that right, you want to change it as a type. It goes to have to make it as a pick list. Normally this thing comes as a pick list. As I said here, consider this an example. Employment type. There'll be a permanent employee, temporary employee, contractual and regular employees, interns, casuals. Something will be there. You know a number of things. When a recruiter is saving a requisition, he wants to add multiple values. In normal scenario, how would you beat up? It is value selection. We can sell only one at a time, right? Any particular feed. If I go on, we need to select any drop-down. I'll get an option to select only one drop-down in because, right? You cannot cite multiple papers, right? Even if you go to any requisitions and if you click on a drop-down, you'll see or you will be able to cite only one at a time and save it. You cannot cite multiple things, right? But when we add it as you can cite multiple values. But my question is, for example, like I say a standard fill ID, I should create ID as a fill, something else like fill. No. Make it as a normal one way. And then in provision thing you have an option for infant. You have to copy this ID and paste it there. You have provision access. You can go to provisioning. Are you able to see my screen? Oh yes, I can. Can you scroll down? Under recruiting, but scroll. There is it went up. I think we had to scroll up. Can you click on internal external search settings? Here we will be adding the scroll down, up and down. Here you can see it as a filter. How do we add it here? You can see it here, right? You can just come in, add it as a field. I'm correct that I have to do this before. No, these things are just come at a greater point. Don't get confused. Just go to the basics first. Later on you can check on the higher end. This is what I was trying to tell you is start with the basics and then go to this part of the gator stage. Or is it? It'll be confusing for you. Let me show you something. Just go through the definition. Don't go into the text of the value of it. Just try to understand what is yum feed. It will be a pick list. You're going to make it as a pick list. What is that you can do? It can store multiple values in a single field. What it's like? If you're setting the value for a field, you can set the number of values for it. For example, I want to feed as a country and I want to set multiple countries within that field. I want to cite as India, I want to cite as Australia, and I want to cite as Malaysia. I want all these three values to be selected, not just one. If I go to a field, a country I'll be able to select only one country, right? Which country I'm born. I can select only one country, but I want that thing to be multiple values to the site. That time I'm going to choose it as a young field. Let me see. Yum field 1. It will be a pick list. It is a multi-cyclical and what for? What I'm using for? I'm using for job location country. I want this job location to be selected for multiple countries. But can you see the ID? The ID is M field 1. It's not mandatory. I don't need to call M field 1. I can call whatever. No. It has to be unfilled one more year. Because it's identified as M field in this basis. You have to call it as M field 1 and then naming you can give it anything, but it is identified as M field 1 only because you have only 15. You can say only M field 15 values within a system. Success factor has limited the M field values to the 15 numbers. You cannot create more than 15. How do we identify it? We were going to name it as 1, 2, 3, 4 M field, 1 M field, 2 M field, 3 up to 15. Sorry. Maybe I misunderstood because I think I asked you that last time and you said I can put like. I understood that I can put whatever and I have to go to provisioning and just set up. You just have to go to provisioning and then add it over there. As I said, these are the standard values, standard IDs, which are presented in the success factors. You can use it for the respective things. If you're using the standard I need to be selected, the same one is finding the different one. You're clear to this now, right? Alright. I'll just show you how to create the front end also. This is a template name. I can add the fields. As I said, fields can be added in many ways. Standard field, filter field, multi-site field, job code operator, operator team custom field. If I select the standard field, these are the standard fields which is already given by the success factors. If you feel like you can do it from the front end easily, then you can do it from the front end only. You don't have to do the XML part. IDID will be text. Acquisition. Whether it's mandatory or not, I can select it here. Similarly, I can select the different fields. And this needs to be in case if I select as a text and if I try to save it, it will throw an error. Similarly, we have these are the different types of field types. What we have bool is something that you have on end of. You are aware of this. Boolean type, what it is? True or false? It will be just like a tab. You have to click on this auto on and off. Second is competencies. You'll be knowing about the competencies, right? It's the same competencies we use in our same also currency. If you are typing currency, then it will be numbers. Then if I'm citing a date field, it will be date field. Then derived is something which is related. Did I miss something? You have something. Regretted doesn't. Normally this comes in the region, country, state. These are all derived, right? Probably. If it's coming from a say country for circuit, it has to be derived by default. And then we have this will be a request, but inside the acquisition you can create a request for that. Call it as you know this. Normally we use it for currency. Or depends upon. If I want to read to for values within an XML, then you can create this instruction. Instruction is as the name defines. If you want to provide an instruction, same this as far as the multi-attachment is something you get for user. You're going to give option to select multiple values. Upload, uploaded. What is multi-attachment? If I cite it as an attachment, I can cite only one attachment. Just make it as a multi-attachment. I can click on the press mark and keep on adding a number of attachments. Number is just numbers. Object. We're going to use it when we are defining the object fields, which is coming from position. This will be discussed when we come up with a position management. Don't get confused on that part. We'll discuss that later. Object, we're going to use it for object fields. Next is operator. Operator is with Whisper right. It's a operators, it's a recruiter, hiring manager. If you're defining that field, we're going to cite this operator. Operator team is defining a team for operator team. We're going to define it. Percentage, as its name says, in case you know it. Question is, we have an option to create a question within the requisition. You must have seen it in the front end, right? If you are defining that, we're going to use questions for that field. This text is like, it will give you a huge text area where you can type a lot of content. Text is just a normal text where you can type it, and text area is also like, it's also a huge text area where you get a waste of text. These are the standard fields, what you can add it, and then filter field. You can type 1, 2, 3 as told, right? There will be a limited number of fields. You can set up to 50. And then multi-select. Similarly with filter, you have multiple fields, multiple field values. And then job code is a standard one operator. We just spoke, right? Progenitor, recruiter, hiring manager, those things. Standard operating team field. If I wanted to for the recruiting team, I need to sign this to add it. This is a custom one. This is program. How do we add a custom field? We just mentioned it as custom score download requirement type. It can be anything based on our requirement, and then we add it. Once we add the fields, there is a button permission. But then permission is only for opening and closing the requisitions. Which role I want to give? I want to give it for approval, hiring manager, based on our requirement. I need to select, and then I need to select which is the permission I want to give as a button, whether it's open or closed. Consider I'm a recruiter. If I have the permission to close the job requisition, then only I can go and close the job requisition or reopen a closed job requisition. In a company, you don't want for all the recruiters to give the permission to go and close it, right? Close the job requisition. For example, for sources, you don't need to give the option to close the job requisition. However, they want to do some hiring part within the requisition, right? They'll be hiring candidates. They'll be adding a candidate. They'll be moving the candidates to a different status. But we don't want to give authorization to close the job requisition. That is called as button permission. This is what it is. We have just started how to create a job requisition. Check on the site on how to create a job requisition from scratch. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.